Is your car eating up a gigantic portion of your budget? In today's video, I'm gonna help you figure out what to do about that. If you're like most people, you bought a car that is just a little bit more expensive than you probably should have. And it's really unfortunate, but I see this all the time. I think it's something that happens because it happens to everybody. It's like, well, everyone drives a decent car. Everyone wants a reliable car. And of course, no one wants to be stuck on the side of the highway in a broken beater. I am gonna help you see that you can probably get a really good, dependable car for a lot less than you're paying now. We're gonna talk about what to do if you're already in over your head with your car. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is figure out how much you owe and how much your car is worth. You can go to kellybluebook.com and you can find out a pretty good range of what your car is worth. And then you wanna see how much you actually owe on your car. If you were to pay it off today, what would that look like? Let's say, for example, you bought a car for $20,000 a year ago, and maybe now you owe $18,000 on it, but it's really only worth $16,000. If you're in this position and you are one of those people that really feels like you're just spending way too much on your car, you have some options. What you can do is you can say, okay, well, my car's worth 16, I owe 18,000. So there's a $2,000 gap that you're gonna have to cover in order to get out of this car. And most people don't wanna do this because who wants to pay $2,000 and get nothing for it? But what you really have to remind yourself is you're not paying $2,000 to get nothing out of it. You're paying $2,000 to receive the difference in buying a cheaper car compared to if you were to fully pay off your car. So let's say, for example, you can find a good, reliable car for $10,000, then you're paying $2,000 to save yourself $6,000. I think that's a good deal because you would be paying $18,000, but instead you're paying the $10,000 of the new car that you get plus the $2,000 of the old car that you had to pay to get out of. So you're paying $12,000 instead of $18,000. You're saving yourself $6,000. I wanted to show you this tool that I really like to help me when I am calculating these numbers. Let's say you have a car loan for $20,000 and we're gonna say 5% interest over 60 months, which is 5 years. Your monthly payment will be about $377 and the total interest you pay will be $2,600. If you decide to downsize and you're at a $10,000 loan instead at 5%, then you're gonna see that you're spending $10,000 and it'll cost you $1,300 in interest. So option A will cost you $22,645 over 5 years. The second one will cost you $11,300. After 5 years, person B will have $11,323 in the bank if they decide to save the difference. If you decided to invest that $188 per month instead of dumping it into your car, if you get an average of just 5% per year, person B can have $13,000 saved up. And obviously these numbers are going to be really different depending on how much you do save. Going back to our calculator, let's say you're paying something like 15%. In this same situation, a $20,000 car is going to cost you $28,500. Yikes. What I want you to do is come in here, crunch your own numbers, see how much you would have to pay over the entire course of your loan. Look at other options and see what you would have to pay if you did decide to downsize. And a big thing I hear from people is that you cannot find a dependable car for under $10,000. I decided to bring you to TrueCar so that you can see, and I put in $8,000 so that you can account for some dealer fees, some taxes and all of that, and maybe you have to finance $10,000, but it might only be an $8,000 car. So you could enter in your criteria here. There is 64 listings for under $8,000. I even put the mileage here under 50,000 miles. Like this Nissan, that looks good. It's got 44,000 miles on it. I mean, come on. I really don't think that you need to be spending much to get something that's actually reliable. One thing you can do if you can't afford to just fork over the cash to get out of the loan that you're in is you could use a personal loan. And I'll give you a link below that'll allow you to input your information and it'll do a soft pull on your credit through numerous loan providers. A soft pull does not hurt your credit. And it just gives you kind of like a ballpark idea of what you would have to pay if one of these loan providers did actually lend you the money. From here, you can actually go in and when you find a rate that you'd like, I would just pick 3 and you could actually apply to all of them and see which one approves you and gives you the best interest rate. Now, this will actually pull your credit if you apply to multiple loan providers during a 15-day window. Then it's only counted as one hit against your credit, because credit agencies do know that people shop for rates when they're looking for a loan. So you're not going to be penalized for this, versus if it were multiple credit cards that you were applying for, then that would be multiple dings on your credit, because it'll look like you're trying to get a ton of different credit cards versus just getting one personal loan to take care of something. So don't worry about applying for multiple loans. You actually should, so that you can get the best rate available. Another thing you can do if you have the credit is you could apply for a 0% interest credit card and take advantage of that deal. If the amount that you owe isn't too much, you might be able to pay it off completely within that 0% window. But obviously be careful with this, because credit card interest rates are really high, so it could really hurt you in the long run. But that being said, use that calculator that I showed, because even if it is a really high interest rate, if it's on a small amount in comparison to what you already owe on your other car loan, then it could be worth it. So just run the numbers and see what works for you. When considering using a credit card, also be aware of how much debt you actually have overall on all of your credit cards, because you want to keep your balance under 30% of your overall available limit. So if this puts you over that, that would be a negative factor on your credit. Another option could be to roll the amount that you owe into your new car loan. If you owe that $2,000, but you're buying a $10,000 car, they might let you finance $12,000. But if that gap is too big, they're probably not going to let you, because it might not be worth it for the loan provider to allow you to tack on that extra. So it might be an option, it might not, but it's worth considering. The next option is going to be just to save up some money and close the gap on your own. Maybe you can't do this right now, maybe it's next year. If you have that as a goal, you can save up the money over time and decide to get yourself out of that loan so that you can save even more money in the big picture. Now, if you're someone that really loves driving a nice car and you get so much joy out of that, and there's nothing you'd rather spend your money on than your car, then ignore everything that I'm saying and buy the best car that you can afford to buy. But if you feel strapped with your finances, like you just don't have enough money to do the things that you want to do, to pay off the high interest debt that you're in, then it might be worth considering getting out of that car that you got in by mistake. The majority of people get into cars that they just can't afford, or they just stretch themselves really thin because everyone wants to have the best of what they can have. But then you don't think about things that you're giving up in order to have that car. I drove a 1999 Isuzu Rodeo for 10 plus years, because every time I thought about getting a new car, I would think most people spend $350 to $450 on a car payment. Even if I were to get a car for less than that, just adding in that car payment could be the equivalent of a plane ticket somewhere. So I can go to Puerto Rico for the weekend for $400. So these are the kinds of things you want to think about, like, what am I giving up because I'm driving this car? And would I rather have those other things? Instead of making this high car payment, there's all of these other things that you can use your money towards. If you're watching this video, I have a feeling you might want to make some changes and just learn from this, and going forward, really sit down and ask yourself, is the money that I'm spending on this worth what I'm giving up over here? And eventually, when you get to the point where your finances are on lock and you make good income and you've just been really responsible, then yeah, buy the car that you want and have the splurges that you've deprived yourself of in the years prior. Now I drive a Jeep Wrangler and it's amazing, but it was years of just driving a simple basic car and sacrificing in that way before I was able to really feel comfortable. And my husband and I share a car, so it works for us. He travels a lot out of the state, so we really only need one car, and that also helps us to be able to have one nice car. Anyway, the whole point is, like, if you do sacrifice and drive a car that isn't ideal, just know that it's temporary, like any other financial sacrifice that you make while you're getting your finances to a really good spot. And eventually you'll be able to drive something that you really love, and you won't have to give up your vacations and you won't have to give up your dinners. You'll be able to do it all. But until you get to that point, don't be afraid of getting out of a car, even if you have to pay to get yourself out of that car, because you want to look at the overall number that you're able to save over time and the lifestyle increase that you're able to have if you did downsize in that area. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.